The question you guys ask most often is, how did I get into the metal recycling industry? So I'm going to try to answer that today. I'm going to start way back at the very beginning and then try to tell you how I basically got to where I am today. So as I remember it, I was about 14 years old. My brother was 16. He had his driver's license and I did not. Him and a buddy of his brought a load of scrap back to our house, and I thought they were crazy. I remember asking them, why would you guys bring that stuff here? What are you collecting that for? And they told me they were going to take it to the local scrapyard and they were going to pay them for it. I thought absolutely no way that that was happening, but those guys went and they came back with over $100. So the light bulb went off in my head that metal was worth money and we should probably start collecting it. So over the summer, my brother and I started going around picking up scrap anywhere and everywhere we could find it. We were dumpster diving. We were asking businesses that had stuff sitting out in front. I would knock on people's doors if they had appliances in their driveway or in their yard, and I would ask them what they were doing with them, and then I would offer to load them up and take them away if they would let me. So as time progressed in our town, we kind of became known as the junk guys, and so people started calling us whenever they had stuff they needed to throw away or get rid of. And then we made business cards, we got magnets for the side of our truck, and it just sort of snowballed over time. So that was probably my sophomore and junior year of high school, and then by my senior year we decided to try to take it as seriously as we could, and we started handing out business cards everywhere. We started advertising for buying junk cars, and I'll never forget the first time I bought a junk car. I put an ad on Craigslist looking for junk cars, cash paid, all that good stuff. And when I was in high school between classes, my phone rang and I answered it, and it was a guy asking me what I would pay for a broken down minivan on the side of the highway. I had never bought a junk car before. I didn't know what to do, so I just offered him $200 and he took it. But the problem was I didn't have a truck or a trailer to go pick that van up. So we borrowed one of my best friend's dad's truck in high school and my brother's girlfriend's father's trailer, and we went and picked that van up. The crazy thing was, we took that van all apart, separated the aluminum parts, pulled out the copper wire, and by the time we had processed it and taken it to the yard, we turned that $200 into $700. Once we started making money like that, we realized that we could make a lot of money messing with stuff that most people don't want to deal with. So we bought a few more trucks and a few trailers, and things kept snowballing. We eventually ended up buying a forklift and a wheel loader. The funny thing about the wheel loader is my brother and a friend of ours went and picked it up. They used a buddy's trailer and truck, and on the way back they got pulled over by a state trooper and got an overweight ticket because they were hauling this huge piece of construction equipment on a gooseneck trailer behind an F-250. In hindsight, that was not a good idea, but when we were younger and a little bit dumber, we didn't necessarily think about those things. So we got like an $1,800 ticket for being overweight, and it happened to snow the next weekend, and we used that wheel loader to plow neighborhoods, streets, parking lots, anything that people would pay us for snow removal, and we paid that ticket off with that machine. Anyways, I'm getting a little bit sidetracked. So as things progressed and we are getting ready to graduate high school, we have really started to accumulate some assets with the trucks and the trailers, and things are really going well. Like I said, we kind of became known as the junk guys in our town, and so we started getting some more commercial clean out jobs. We had a couple businesses that were either moving shop or leaving town or closing down, and they would call us and ask us how much to just clean out their entire warehouse. Now if it was all metal, we would do it for free, but if they had other stuff, we would charge them or trade out for the metal or whatever the case may be. And then two highlights that stick out to me the most was a golf course job. Their entire equipment building burnt down, and we ended up going there and cleaning up the entire building. Now that I know more about how these things work, they really got a great deal because we came in and cleaned everything up for free just for the scrap metal. But we also got a great deal. I want to say we pulled $5,000 or $6,000 worth of metal out of there in like 2 weekends, and to some young kids, that's a lot of money. So it really turned out well. And then another thing that I will never forget, in our town we had 2 weeks of every year that was called bulk trash pickup, and that would be the time for residents to throw away things that they normally couldn't put out at the curb for trash. So they could throw out furniture, appliances, car parts, just anything oversized and bulky. And for those 2 weeks, my brother, myself, and a couple buddies, we would all just drive around town constantly and pick up all the scrap metal. And we would take that metal back to my mom's yard and we would make a huge pile for 2 weeks straight. I mean, we would have a mountain of scrap. And then once the 2-week time frame was over with, then we would go back and process all that scrap, pull out all the valuable materials. Sometimes we would sell stuff. It's unbelievable what people will throw away. We would pick up brand new riding lawnmowers. Instead of just scrapping those, we would turn around and sell them. And in those 2 weeks time, we usually would make about $10,000 to $12,000. So it really just continued to snowball until we got in trouble with the county. So the county showed up one day and said, you guys are running a commercial or industrial business from a residential property. Us being young kids that really didn't know how business worked and really didn't think we were running a business, of course said, no, we're not. This is just a hobby. We do this for fun. And they gave us a notice that we had 10 days to clean up, or the property owner faced penalty or potential jail time. I think they would have just ended up fining my mom because she was the property owner. So we had to clean everything up and basically stop doing what we were doing from there. Luckily, my brother's now wife, was his girlfriend at the time, her parents allowed us to kind of move shop over to their property. They had some property that was not in city limits, and we were able to sort of pick up operating what we were doing from there. But through that, we decided that we wanted to take this serious and we wanted to continue to do what we were doing and try to do it more legitimate. So my brother and I asked our father if he would be willing to invest with us to buy a commercial property so that we could continue what we were doing. All this is sort of happening as we are graduating high school and ready to go to college, and our father really wanted us to go to college. So he basically said, if we're serious, he wants us to go to school first. He wants us to come up with a business plan and really cross our T's and dot our I's before he just jumps in with us. And of course, he wanted us to get an education. So that's what we do. My brother and I both go to college. We continue to do the scrap and junk cars and everything through college, but it's a little more difficult because we both are living out of town. And then by the time we get towards the end of college, our father realizes that we are very serious about continuing to do what we do. And with his expertise, he decided it would probably be better to look at purchasing an existing yard rather than starting from scratch. He was already working with private equity firms at the time, sort of doing business mergers and acquisitions. So that was really in his realm of things, and that's where his expertise really helped us. And then specifically on the scrap side of things, he was familiar with that from operating manufacturing and machining companies. So they weren't handling scrap per se as a commodity or as a valuable part of their business, but more so as a byproduct. So he knew sort of how that worked, but he didn't have ties to the scrap business before. And the reason I'm telling you that is because if you know anything about the scrap industry, it's usually yards or people that have family ties to the industry. So it's usually a generational business, or it's more on the corporate level. So we have some really large steel mill companies that own scrap yards, and they hire a lot of people straight out of college. And there's not very many people that are tapping into this industry outside of those two things. So you've either got family ties or you're going straight to the corporate level. I'm not saying either of those things are wrong. It's just odd that I didn't fall into either one of those categories. I just sort of fell in love with the industry by being a young kid that enjoyed making money. Now, of course, I've continued to like this industry, and that's why I'm still here today. So by the time we were graduating college, it was around 2014-ish, maybe 2013, when we really started looking for a business for sale, and we actually almost purchased one about an hour and a half from where we're located now. That process took about a year, and we were all but signing the dotted line on the finished documents to own that yard, and the gentleman that was selling it backed out last minute. We were kind of devastated, like, what the heck, but in the grand scheme of things, it really turned out for the better. But from that transaction and working with the business broker that we were with on that yard, shortly after, he got contacted by the owners of our current facility, and he knew that we were specifically looking for a metal recycling facility, and that we were not really interested in any other type of business. So when he got contacted by the owners of this facility, he immediately contacted us. We were the first ones to come in and look, and then now it takes a long time for it to happen, but we did ultimately end up buying it. So, you know, we had to do some environmental testing, you know, everything with buying a business, including financing and just your whole due diligence process. But that took us over a year to get that done, and we finally took over here at the beginning of 2015. Now, if you know anything about the scrap business, or you're in the scrap business, 2015 was a horrible year for our industry, and that was our first year being fully deep into this business, and we learned every lesson we possibly could have needed to learn that year. I wouldn't trade that experience for anything now, because we really know how to operate lean and in tough times. But back then, man, did I wonder if we had made a mistake. But that's kind of the whole story of how we got started and how we ended up where we are. I need to go back in some of our old computers and see if I can find the photos from when we were teenagers and piling that scrap up in my mom's yard, and just some of the cars we took apart and took to demo derbies. And it really was kind of the highlight of my career. Don't get me wrong, I still love doing what I do every day, but now that I'm over 10 years into this business, looking back on those times, I'm just so fond of it, because it's how I started, and I was with my friends and with my brother, and we just constantly had fun while we were still working. But I'm very thankful for the entire progress of how I went, and I know I've shared this story before, kind of more in a short form content, and some of you guys will make comments like, oh, so it comes down to work hard, but then you still need daddy's money. I've never been one to hide the fact that I wouldn't be where I'm at today without his help. We still had to basically finance the entire business, but if we didn't have his expertise and his ability to secure the funding, we wouldn't have been able to pull that off as some 20-year-old guys between my brother and I. But I still think that I would be in this industry or doing something along these lines, but I don't think at 30 years old, well, I'm 31 now, that I would have 2 facilities and a fleet of trucks and all this commercial business and all this stuff. So of course I'm very appreciative for the opportunities that I have had and the reasons, or the ways that I've got here, but I do still think that I would be somewhere along this path, irregardless of how that path had changed. So anyways, I just wanted to share with you guys, since you guys always ask. I look forward to continue to sharing with you this entire journey. I do my best to upload these videos as frequently as possible. The short form content is a lot easier for me. That's why I try to post that every day. But if you guys will, leave some comments below of what type of stuff you want to see from around here, or if you want me to cover a topic related to this business. I know I've said before that I don't really want to share specific financial information with you about this business, because I do have my father as a partner, but I will share other details, maybe about how we buy or price material, or how we try to stay efficient with our trucking or our processing. But I don't really know what you guys want to see or what would be the most interesting for you guys to see. So if you have any suggestions, please leave a comment. Thanks again for all you followers and subscribers. I really appreciate it. It is very hot out here. I am starting to sweat, and I wish I had my sunglasses on. But as always, thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you on the next one.